Far beyond the bright centers of trade and peace treaties, at the edge of the Varlan expanse, where only dust clouds and forgotten stars drift, the Aliari Dominion picked up a strange anomaly, a signal from a small blue planet circling an average yellow star. Their scanners, which had never failed to map threats before, flagged the signal as weak and harmless. The planet, named Earth by its native species, was newly interstellar, barely crawling across space with mismatched technology and uneven communication streams. To the Aliari, a civilization that ruled through perfect calculations and data-driven conquest, Earth looked like a minor curiosity, primitive, emotional, and unstructured. Their scout fleet, made of sleek vessels with perfect armor and flawless logic systems, was sent not to threaten, but to watch, analyze, and document. Commander Varkel, a strategist bred for analysis, expected to classify Earth within hours. But as the fleet moved into the system, things started to feel strange. The human ships they observed weren't uniform. Some looked like cargo haulers. Converted into warships, others used strange angles and asymmetrical plating. They broadcast music and jokes on open channels, even while tracking the incoming scouts. Their behavior was inconsistent, their movements hard to predict. Every simulation the Aliari systems ran returned different results. Sometimes Earth fought back in the model. Sometimes it ran. Sometimes it ignored the threat entirely. Varkel ordered a recalibration, but the scans remained inconclusive. He labeled the confusion as system noise, a temporary flaw in data processing, and decided to send one scout vessel, the Vexa 3, closer to the third planet for a direct scan. The ship obeyed, cruising past the orbit of Mars, sending back live readings. Then, in the middle of a clear transmission, it vanished. No warning, no explosion, no debris. Just silence. The Aliari assumed the malfunction and prepared a second ship for recovery, but the sensors showed no wreckage, no sign of attack, and most alarmingly, no energy spike from weapons. A full analysis was run, and the logs showed that right before the disappearance, Vexa 3's systems had reported perfect calm. It hadn't even raised its shields. Commander Varkel paused, uneasy but unwilling to show doubt. He blamed an internal fault and ordered the incident marked as a maintenance failure, not an attack. The Dominion had never encountered an enemy. Who could hide from their sensors? And he refused to believe that humans could be the first. Still, as he looked at Earth again, its quiet orbit, its uneven satellites, its flickering defense grid, he felt something in his gut that the data couldn't explain. Humans hadn't fired a shot, but somehow they knew they were being watched. And the first move had already been made. On Earth, inside the hidden levels of Luna Base, beneath the gray surface of the moon, silence followed the loss of the alien scout ship. But it was not the silence of confusion. It was the silence of decision. High Command did not send out warnings or threats. No flashy shows of force lit up the sky. Instead, a single order was sent through a secure channel, activating a classified defense protocol called Phantom Thread, a program developed in secret by human minds trained to think not just in logic, but in chaos. Deep inside Earth's defense web, stealth vessels unlike any the galaxy had seen slipped quietly into space, not large or beautiful like the ships of the Aliari, but small, unpredictable, and invisible to all known scanners. Some were barely larger than cargo pods, others disguised as broken satellites or meteor debris, but all of them carried modified tech, pulled from dozens of sources, patched together not for beauty, but for function, and function they did. The Aliari, now watching more closely, searched for signs of human reaction, but their advanced sensors showed nothing. Their commanders reported perfect quiet, no movement, no countermeasure. Then the strange problems began first, minor communication delays between ships, then sudden spikes and signal noise that made orders unreadable. Navigation systems began drifting, causing ships to adjust course constantly without knowing why. Software would reset without command. At first, the Aliari believed it was a glitch in their fleet's latest system update. Varkel ordered a full diagnostic sweep, confident it would be resolved quickly. But inside Earth's dark network, a new kind of intelligence had come online, a cyber warfare, AI known as Cinder. Born from human minds, but designed to learn faster than anything humanity had ever trusted before. Unlike traditional programs, Cinder didn't follow patterns. It read alien language in data bursts, adapted, rewrote itself, and slipped through defenses like mist in moonlight. One by one, it touched the Aliari ships, never loudly, never fully, but enough to leave fingerprints they could not trace. Then it struck, not with force, but with silence. A second scout ship, the Halloran 7, vanished from its place in the formation. Hours later, it reappeared far out on the edge of the solar system, drifting. Cold, its memory core wiped, its systems scrambled. The crew was alive, but unable to speak of what had happened, their logs blank, their navigation erased. Panic began to stir in the fleet, but still the scanners read no enemy. Earth was quiet. The threat level remained low. But now, even Varkel could no longer explain away the signs. The scout fleet had lost 2 ships without a single recorded attack. Command systems were failing randomly, and nothing they did could stop it. Worst of all, the enemy, if it was truly the humans, was doing everything without being seen. With no missiles, no beams, no sound. The Aliari had always trusted their eyes, their machines, their perfect technology. But now they were facing something that didn't match their simulations, something they couldn't measure. And somewhere beneath the moon's surface, Cinder watched, listened, and waited, not for orders, but for opportunity. The first phase of Phantom Thread had worked. Earth hadn't fired a single shot, but already the most advanced fleet in the galaxy had started to doubt its own senses. And when logic begins to break, fear is never far behind. The Aliari Dominion, tired of guessing and confused by silence, finally sent their full armada to Earth's orbit, certain they would bring order with overwhelming force. Their fleet stretched across space like a steel storm-sleek warships, battlespheres, and high command units, all flawless in design and tested in battle. Their simulations showed an easy sweep, no resistance, no real challenge. But as they entered the solar system, the first warning signs began to appear not as threats, but as miscalculations. Ships that were supposed to hold course began drifting, slightly off target, pulled by gravity wells that hadn't been there before. It turned out that near Jupiter and Saturn, gravity anchors had been deployed devices disguised as research stations now distorting mass fields. When the Aliari tried to correct their course, navigation glitches worsened, as if the space itself had turned against them. Their automated systems started triggering emergency flags, not from damage, but from decoy signals bouncing off debris fields, arranged to mimic emergency beacons. Then came the freighter, a slow, silent hunk of metal drifting across their path. No weapons, no shield, just old human paint and broken panels. They scanned it. No danger. But when it got close enough, it exploded not violently, but with purpose, sending out a cloud of micrometal dust that stuck to Aliari hulls and infiltrated sensor arrays. Suddenly, scanners failed. Engines began misfiring. Communications warped into static. Commander Varkel, still trying to stay calm, watched his clean formations collapse into scattered units trying to regroup. But the worst was still ahead. Earth had not met them with fire. They had met them with environment, deception, and chaos. Debris fields long thought random were now seen as minefields, hiding dormant explosives inside objects labeled as ancient probes. Old satellites, believed, non-functional, pulsed strange codes that jammed targeting systems. Human solar labs had learned to manipulate solar flares, and now artificial magnetic storms flashed across the system, confusing every unshielded sensor. None of it should have worked, not against the polished strength of the Dominion. But it did, because the humans didn't follow rules. They didn't fight with pride or clean designs. They fought like survivors, using every mistake, every scrap, every shadow. The solar system was not a battlefield. It was a trap, designed over years, maybe decades, by minds trained to turn weakness into advantage. The Aliari had come expecting resistance. What they got was disruption. And as systems failed one after another, and command links went silent, the terrifying truth became clear. Earth didn't need superior firepower. They had turned space itself into a weapon dot as the Aliari Armada floated half-blind through the solar system. The once proud fleet struggled to regroup, but Earth's strange and silent tactics never paused. Ship after ship lost contact with the others, not from damage, but from quiet, creeping interference codes that scrambled orders, signals that redirected them into dead zones, and shadows that moved through sensor grids without being seen. Human drones, built from scavenged materials and wrapped in heat-masking plating, slipped through the spaces between ships like ghosts. Some latched onto hulls and drained power coils. Others infiltrated control decks and shut down key systems, never firing a shot. The Aliari still believed they could regain order, but every time they gathered their forces, something new went wrong. A research satellite orbiting Neptune suddenly flared like a sun, releasing bursts of electromagnetic light that burned through scanner arrays. Artificial moons disguised as civilian outposts lit up with pulse beacons that created false readings, painting enemy fleets where there were none. The Aliari ships began firing blindly, often hitting their own allies, confused by fake targets and rerouted commands. Every standard tactic failed. Every attempt to predict Earth's moves ended in deeper confusion. Human fleets, if they could even be called that, never showed up in one place. They didn't use fleet formations. They didn't send demands or warnings. They operated in fragments, ships appearing from odd angles, firing once, then vanishing behind planetary shadows. Commander Varkal sat in his darkened command deck, alarm still blinking, his crew trying to make sense of data that refused to settle. For the first time, he truly understood the truth. The Aliari scanners hadn't failed to detect the human threat. They were never designed to notice this kind of threat, one that broke logic, defied patterns, and refused to act with reason. Humanity had not risen through structure or order. They had clawed their way through extinction after extinction, through storms and wars and plagues, never by being the strongest, but by refusing to die. Every strange tactic, every recycled weapon, every flicker of misdirection wasn't just strategy, it was instinct. Earth wasn't attacking to win a war. Earth was surviving. And in that survival, they had become something far more dangerous than the Aliari ever expected, not a force of destruction, but a force of chaos that could not be stopped, because it could not be predicted, not the remains of the once mighty Aliari. Fleet drifted quietly beyond Earth's orbit, their ships broken, scattered, or slowly retreating into deep space, while confusion still echoed across their command channels. 2/3 of their force was gone not through massive battles, but through clever traps, confusion, and the silence of an enemy that never played by the rules. Then, without warning, a transmission echoed across every frequency used by the Aliari, clear and steady, broadcast from somewhere near Earth's moon. It held no threat, no anger, no demand, just a cold truth spoken with calm certainty. Do not mistake silence for weakness. We didn't want war. You started it. We finished it. For a few long moments, the message lingered in space, and then the final proof of Earth's strategy revealed itself. Dozens of human ships uncloaked or emerged from radiation fields, gas pockets, and planetary shadows. They were not elegant vessels, not shining with beauty or advanced design. They were worn, patched, and heavily modified, each one built not for display, but for purpose. Some had hulls covered in mismatched armor. Others bore signs of repurposed tech from older generations, and still they stood together battle-ready and unafraid. To the remaining Aliari commanders, it was the end of certainty. Earth had not only held them off, but reshaped the very meaning of conflict. In their final reports, the Dominion classified Earth under a new label never used before: strategically indeterminate, a status that admitted they could no longer predict, model, or control what humanity might do next. It was a quiet surrender, dressed in technical language, but it meant everything. As the battered fleets left the system, news of the battle spread beyond the stars. Civilizations that once saw Earth as a minor curiosity now looked at it with a different lens, not as a primitive blue world, but as a place filled with beings who survived, not by dominance, but by doing the unexpected. Somewhere far away, in a part of the galaxy untouched by the Aliari, a different empire, one that had long kept Earth on its invasion list, opened a quiet file, reviewed the new data, and without fanfare, deleted Earth from its plans. Reason was not fear. It was understanding. Because any species that wins through silence, deception, and chaos cannot be calculated. And in a galaxy ruled by cold logic and flawless systems that made humanity the most dangerous kind of power, one you never see coming until it's too late.